All right, so good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Wanted to make an update or a video here on the Royals. I haven't made one in a couple weeks since actually about a week before this season started, and the Royals are actually 5 games into their season now, or 5 games into their season, or 6 games. Yeah, they're 6 games into their season now. Opening day was a week ago today. I went to opening day. It was a very rainy day. It was delayed by about a little over 2 hours, and then they finally got the game in, and it was able to take my son. Surprised him, took him out of school. He's in 8th grade, and it's kind of poetic. I mean, when I was in 8th grade, my mom took me out of school as well, and surprised me with going to opening day for the first time ever. So anyway, and the Royals won that day. They won 5-3 on opening day. They had a 5-0 lead going to the top of the 9th, and then the bullpen fell apart and was barely able to hold on. It was 5-3. The bases were loaded, and it was a hard hit ball to right field, and I was like, my heart kind of sunk at first, and I was like, well, we was hit right to Merrifield. So. Anyway, so that's kind of the theme I want to talk about here is the bullpen. The Royals stand at 2-4 through their first 6 games, and I'm going to be honest with you. This isn't the fanboy in me coming out on this. The Royals should be 5-1. I mean, there's no excuse for them to be 2-4. I understand the bullpens you're going to have games where you're just going to let get away, and the other team is going to come back. I get that. But it's happened to the Royals 4 times now. Or 3 times. Yeah, 3 straight games. It's happened. And it almost happened on opening day. And it almost happened on the Saturday that they won too, when they won 8-6. They had a big lead. They were up, I want to say 8-2, and the White Sox came back and scored 4 runs in like the 8th inning or something like that. But anyway, this has been it was obviously a problem last year, especially in the first half. The second half, the bullpen got a little better. Peralta pitched very well in the second half, and it was pretty dependable, coming out of the bullpen to save games. He's not been good this year. Blake Boxberger has been a disaster. Dykman has been a disaster. And even Zimmer, who only pitched 1 inning so far, and was just not being brought in at all. Zimmer was brought in yesterday with, I don't know if the Royals had the lead or the game was tied. I know they weren't losing. I think the game was tied at 3. They brought in, and Ned went ahead and decided to go with Zimmer in a high-pressure situation, high-lever situation, with 1 runner on base, and he promptly walked 3 straight batters, walked in a run, and only threw like 6 strikes in 3 batters. Or 5 strikes or something like that, and it was really, really bad. So, what do the Royals do now? I mean, they sit at 2-4. They should be 5-1, but they're not. And these losses, they count. And some people say, well, it's early. Don't get too worked up over April losses. It's like losses in April count the same as losses in September. And I'm not saying the Royals are going to compete this year. I did go on record, back when spring training started, said I think the Royals will finish at 500 or a few games above 500, because I thought they were better than what a lot of people thought they were. I liked the signings that they had. So far, those signings in the bullpen have not worked out. Dykman and Boxberger have not been good. Now, that said, they're 6 games into it. They could very well turn it around, and it could be very good down the stretch. I mean, Wade Davis was pretty rocky at the start of 2014 out of the bullpen too, and then he decided not to allow a run for 5 months. So I'm exaggerating there a little bit, but I remember him blowing a game in Philadelphia when the Royals were up like 4-1, and he gave up 4 or 5 runs in the 8th inning or something like that. Anyway. So let's talk. So we know the bullpen's bad, and I think there is some things that the Royals could do. They're going to stick with some of these guys they've signed for a little bit, and they're going to maybe see if they can turn it around. They've already gotten rid of both of their Rule 5 guys. Sam McWilliams was released, and he was given back to Tampa, or wherever he came from. I think it was Tampa. And then Chris Ellis actually made the opening day roster, pitched 1 inning of scoreless relief on Sunday against the White Sox. And then he was promptly designated for assignment to make room for Homer Bailey, who started one of the game against the Twins. And Bailey was effective. He pitched 5 innings, allowed 3 runs, but that's not the greatest line. He did strike out 8 batters though, so that was encouraging. So, but Ellis was DFA'd. So essentially, if no one picks him up, he will go back to the Cardinals, since the Royals did not keep him on the 25-man roster. So I'm kind of mixed emotions about this. The Royals were obviously trying to find the next Brad Keller. They were trying to get, strike lightning for the second consecutive year. It didn't happen, and they wasted a lot of time in, looking at these two guys in spring training by cutting them, one before the season started and one only 3 games into the season. That could have been more time that Josh Staumont could have had to pitch. That could have been more time that Richard Lovelady could have had to pitch. Excuse me. But I think both those guys will be up, and I think that's where the help's coming from. And I think Staumont and Lovelady both will come up with and they have better arms than what the Royals have out there right now. Like I said, I like the Boxberger signing, and he might end up being a guy that just doesn't work out. I mean, maybe he just doesn't have it anymore. Who knows? But there are some options coming up from the minors, and so we'll see what happens with that. The offense has been pretty good. Usually, the Royals come up from spring training, and their bats are always hot. It seems like in Arizona, and then they come up to the regular season and start the regular season, and their bats just go into the freezer. That's not been the case here. I mean, the top of the order has really produced. Whit Merrifield, Mondesi, Gordon, Soler, they've all done pretty well. Gordon's average is not that high. He does have 2 home runs now, and he's on base. I think it's over 400 now. He's leading the team in runs scored. So Alex Gordon is doing his job. He's hitting some home runs. He's getting on base. That's what counts. And he's scoring a ton of runs because Soler, right behind him, is hitting the cover off the ball. Mondesi, hitting in front of Gordon, is hitting really well. He had a kind of a bad game yesterday against the Tigers, but he's got like 3 or 4 triples already. He's got an inside the park home run. He's hit some doubles. He's stolen some bases. So he's done really well. Merrifield has had a hit in every game, so he's extended his hitting streak now to 26 games, which is now the 3rd longest in Royals history, only 4 away from tying George Brett for the longest. Brett had a 30-game hitting streak in 1980. Then we get to the bottom of the order, and this has been where it's been hit or miss. Maldonado, or Martin Maldonado, the catcher, he's had a couple good games, but he's had some couple stinkers too. I mean, he's not drawing walks, he's just hitting singles, and but he's not providing anything at the bottom. And part of the thing that is even worse than that is Ned has played Chris Owings every day just about. Hunter Dozier has less playing time than Chris Owings at this point. Now, Dozier is not hit well either, so it's not like the Royals would be in better shape if he was in there. But Owings has played he's started every day, and he's hitting like a 0.55 or something like that. It's just terrible. I think he has like 1 hit, and it's just not good. He looks overmatched at the plate. His bat speed looks slow. So that's not encouraging. Hunter Dozier also has not started well either. Ryan O'Hearn has played most of the games. He didn't start opening day. He did play the next day and had a couple hits and drove in a couple runs. He didn't play on Sunday. He did hit a home run, though. Was it against the Twins? Yeah, it was against the Twins. So he was actually the first Royal to hit a home run this year. And I'm not sure about what their plans is with Frank Schwindel. He started on opening day, but the thing is with him is that they're not going to play him against righties because they're going to use O'Hearn. And Schwindel, I still don't think he has a hit yet. He kind of got robbed on opening day. He had one that I thought should have been counted as a hit. They ended up scoring it an error, and I mean, that's fine, I guess. I went back and looked at the replay, and it was a ball I think that the second baseman probably could have got to, but it was pretty hard hit, and I was surprised that they didn't give him a hit. But regardless, what I think Ned Yost needs to do is to just play Hunter Dozier at third base every day, and I guess if he wants to put Owings at second and right, because the biggest thing is that they have no right fielder now. They don't want to play Soler out there every day. They want Soler to DH, which really means that Merrifield is at this point is your best option as a right fielder. That's what happens when you release Brian Goodwin. And I know Brian Goodwin had a terrible spring training, but the Royals really have no right fielder at this point. Bonifacio and Phillips are still in the minor leagues, and I think both of them will be up at some point this year. Honestly, it depends on what happens with Chris Owings. If he continues to hit as poorly as he is, he's going to force the Royals' hand. They're going to have to do something. They're going to have to get him out of the everyday lineup. He cannot be an automatic out. And I haven't even gotten to Billy Hamilton yet. Billy Hamilton, he had one game where he had a good game, but I don't think he's stolen a base yet. And he's not provided that great a defense for the Royals so far. And he's hitting awful, absolutely awful. He did have he had a hit in the ninth inning yesterday. It was I thought trying to spark a 2-out rally as the Royals were down a run. But it didn't come to fruition. The Royals have lost. They are 0-3 now in one-run games. So they have lost three consecutive one-run games. I'm gonna stop for a school bus here. Yeah, so 3 consecutive one-run loss games, and when you lose games by 1 run, that is a direct indication that your bullpen is not good. And I know sometimes it's just, the other team gets up by they're up 6-0, and you whittle back, and you whittle away the score, and then the next thing you know, you lose 6-5. But in most cases, it's because you have a lead yourself, and the other team comes back and scores runs against your bullpen, which is what's happening with the Royals. So the encouraging signs is that the Mondesi looks for real, folks. And I was always very critical of Mondesi, but I guess he was always really young. Remember, he came up with the Royals initially when he was 19 years old, and obviously he wasn't ready then. But they just needed a warm body on the bench in case Ben Zobrist's wife went into labor during the World Series. The other thing that's encouraging, Junis and Keller have both pitched pretty well. Homer Bailey, obviously he gave up a couple runs in 5 innings and gave up some hits, but he struck out a bunch of batters, so that was encouraging from him. Let's see, who else was the starter? Lopez started the game against the White Sox, the game they lost 6-3. And through the first 3 innings, Lopez looked like he was going to throw a no-hitter. I mean, he had struck out like 6 or 7 in the first 3 innings, or he was just absolutely dominant. And then the fourth, it's like the second time through the lineup, or hit, and boom, he was rocked. Gave up a couple home runs, and then he was out of the game. So that's one thing that Lopez is going to really have to work on this year, is when he makes a mistake over the middle of the plate, usually with something that's off speed that doesn't move. And if you make a mistake over the middle of the plate, like with a changeup, that ball's gonna be 10 rows back, in the left field bleachers. It's just, I mean, you can't make mistakes in the middle of the plate with off speed stuff. And Lopez is notorious for that. I mean, he's got tremendous stuff, but it's like he has mental lapses on the mound, and he's going to have to correct that. If you're going to miss with the changeup, you got to miss down, because if they swing at it, they're probably going to miss it, or if they do hit it, they're going to hit a ground ball. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see what else happens with Lopez as he makes. I think he's scheduled to start tomorrow's game against the Tigers. The Royals don't play today. Kind of a rare deal, they don't play on a Friday, because yesterday was the home opener for the Tigers. So after this weekend, it'll get back to normal in terms of the normal schedule. But the Royals, in my opinion, again, you don't want to say games are must-win situations. They need to take these next 2 games from the Tigers. The Tigers are not a good team. They've started well. I want to say they're 4-2 or 5-1, but the Tigers are still not a very good baseball team. But the Royals aren't a very good team either. The Royals need to win these next 2 games, and they can win these next 2 games. And it's just a matter of, it's all a mental thing with the bullpen right now, and there needs to be a guy out there who just takes charge and starts getting guys out. Then it becomes a competition, and then the other guys, they don't want to fail, because they don't want to pretend or act like that they're letting down their teammates. So that's kind of the update with the Royals here after the first week. Again, a lot of encouraging signs, especially with the offense, with Raul Mondesi looking like the real deal. Ryan O'Hearn showing some power. Soler, as long as he can stay healthy, Soler is going to be an absolute beast this year, I think. But it's going to come down to that back end of that bullpen. The starting pitching has been pretty good. I'm not going to say they've been great, but they've done their job to give the Royals some wins, and that's what we asked them to do. So, yeah, 2-4 in the Royals, and I'm hoping that after this weekend, I'll make a video on Monday. I'm hoping that by Monday morning I can say that the Royals are back at 500, and they've had some good performances out of the bullpen for this weekend. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But Merrifield can continue his batting streak as well. So thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great day, and we will talk to you later.